Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hold up, have you registered for my new free training yet? It's called Get 3 Months Ahead on Bills with Fluctuating Income so you can do your art stress-free. The anti-budget money strategy for creatives, and it's happening on June 1st. I am going to walk you through why budgeting ruined my mental health and my artistic work as a creative. I'm going to teach you the 4-step process in the anti-budget money strategy. And I'm going to talk about how to get 3 months ahead on bills with fluctuating income and why this is the most important first step. And right after the training on June 1st, doors are going to open to my brand new group program, Cashed Up Creatives, which is the financial education your BFA never gave you. And it's helping creatives hit their money goals without budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks. Now, you want to be registered for the training because only people registered for the training will get access to a free bonus when you join Cashed Up Creatives in the first 48 hours. You're going to get a free 30-minute one-on-one money strategy call with me to map out your personalized money flow method that's going to help you get 3 months ahead on bills no matter what your financial situation is. So make sure you're registered. Link is in the show notes and I will see you there. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to have with me today Shannon Hill. Shannon and I worked together we started working together back in October of 2020. So back in like the heart and throes of the pandemic times, right? So I'm so excited to have her on today to share with you her journey with money since working together. She's had so many wins, but also ups and downs, so many different seasons of life. And so I want for you all to hear her story. And also she's an artist. Let me give you her bio because I think it'll give us a frame of reference here. So she's a full-time working mom, artist, and advocate. She wanted to start feeling in control of her money, found Not Starving Artists on social media, and never looked back. She lives in Michigan with her partner, daughter, 2 dogs, cat, and a baby on the way. She works full-time in publishing and as a part-time theater artist. She's passionate about breaking financial cycles and destroying the glass ceiling that stops women from being paid the money they deserve, because we all know we should be making more money. Welcome, Shannon.
Hello.
I am so excited that you are here.
I'm so happy to be here. My life. So I'm just very excited to be talking to you again and also see you again because I haven't seen you in a very long time.
Oh, right. And we have been, I love so much that you always DM me your wins when you have them. So we have like a huge message history that I actually pulled up to like go back through and see all of the things. So it's been fun to like touch base on like all of the seasons of life that you've gone through since we worked together. So let's start with, tell us about where you're at in your life right now. You just shared some big news with me for the first time that I just learned today. So I want you to share where you are right now. And then I want you to think back to October of 2020 and where you were back then so we can see the change in where you're at.
Mm-hmm. So I have now now I am living in Michigan in a house with a yard and 2 dogs and a cat and, like you said, a baby and, well, my daughter and then a baby on the way. And then, yeah, I'm so excited about that. And did I say my husband? I don't remember. But I work full time in publishing at a company I've been at for 5 years now. It's an academic publishing, and it has given me the stability I was looking for financially to be able to know I could afford essentials, which is so great. And I now work as a part-time theater artist in the Michigan area, teaching at universities and schools and directing at community and professional theaters in the area. And I'm doing a little fight choreography for high schools, which is really fun. I'm in a really good place in my life, besides the morning sickness. It's a really great place to be. And in October of 2020, I was living in a single bedroom apartment with my husband in Philadelphia with a dog and a cat, working a job that was not as lucrative as the job I'm in right now at my current company, and barely doing theater work because obviously the pandemic.
Yeah. And you also had no kids at that time either. Like I remember you told me you were pregnant with your first kid during our time working together. So it's like, okay, time for the bebe fund, time to prepare for children, right? To prepare for buying a house. Because I know that was on your like vision, but that wasn't even like a real rooted desire yet when we first started working together, right?
Right. Right. It became a rooted desire when I got pregnant. Like I'd always wanted a yard for my dog, but we could take her on walks pretty easily. We lived next to a really nice park that had a bunch of hiking trails and things. So she still got outside daily and like got good walks and everything. So it wasn't as much of a priority, but I wanted a place where my kids could play outside safely and where I could watch them easily and not have to travel. Like I could be in the house and they could just be in the backyard and it would be fine. And so when I got pregnant, I was like, okay, we need to start saving for a house. We need to figure out what we're doing. We looked in Philadelphia. The reason why we moved to Michigan is because my parents are here and they offered free childcare. And I said, yes, I will be taking that. So we moved out here and it's actually been the best move for us because we are now in a less saturated market with artists. So our skills are more in demand. So I'm actually working more as an artist now than I was when I was working in Philadelphia.
That's amazing. And I also want to highlight that too of like artistic fulfillment can look so different in so many different ways. And I love that for both of you, right? Like you both are creatives living a creative life. And so for you, it made the most sense, right? To have that support, have the financial backing, and you still get to have your creative fulfillment as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's been really awesome to have that balance.
Do you remember in October of 2020 what your initial desires were or what you were struggling with the most in your money 4 years ago?
Maybe feeling like I never had enough of it. Just feeling, I don't know, I guess feeling lost, not in control of it, not really sure what to do, feeling not empowered. I didn't know, I just felt like, okay, I'm like barely scraping by, working paycheck to paycheck, and how do I change this situation? Much as I can within my control. I was applying for jobs, I was applying for jobs left and right, but the job market still is very difficult for anyone. Like it's like, okay, well, I can keep plugging away at that, but then how do I change where at least my money mindset, if nothing else? Like, how do I change how I feel about my financial status if it's not where I want it to be yet?
Definitely. And I also remember there was a lot of like shame that was coming with you of like past money decisions, and there was some shame about debt. Like I remember that being one of the weightier pieces.
Yes, that I did have a lot of shame around because, as a creative person, a lot of people look at you when you take that path and they're like, you're insane. You're not going to be able to afford rent. You're not going to be, and you're like, but I did it. I did it for 10 years without a full-time job. Like I did it. For me, the best choice was to find stability because for my own personality, I needed that like assurance to make sure that my anxiety was chill because I was getting like older and wanted that, worrying about whether I could pay my rent or not without working myself into the ground was no longer appealing to me. So I was like, let's pivot. Let's find something else. We'll make it work.
Yeah, definitely. And so from that point, I made a list of like just a handful of the things over the past 4 years that you have accomplished and done and messaged me about. So I'm just going to list them off and we're going to pick some that we want to dive into. So I know we talked about your impulsive girly fund, which was one of my favorite ones that you talked about, your solo vacation, you and your husband booking a cruise, paying medical bills and car maintenance with ease. You got a new tattoo at one point. You transitioned jobs. You moved. You got a house. You had debt payoff that was happening. You funded your emergency fund. And then you had a baby and now you're having another one. And another dog came in there at some point. And you also had ups and downs with like money dates and money mindset and also how you were feeling about your finances. So with that, which of those do you want to elaborate on a little bit more? Because you got a lot of stuff that you accomplished in the past 4 years.
Yeah, it's nice when you lay it out like that because sometimes you forget.
Yes.
As far as insurance, we have a high deductible plan through my work. So, in order to have a baby, I knew that we would have to pay at least $3,000, like just out of the gate, because that is our deductible, or that was my individual deductible. We had like a family deductible of 6,000 or whatever. So I had to pay $3,000 out of the gate. So from the time that I knew I was pregnant until when we had the baby, I saved up that money. And then what happened was my husband, I was planning to pay it all because that's just who I am, and I was, like, prepared to pay it all, but my husband was like, No, I'm paying half of that. Half of that is my, responsibility." So he paid half of it, and that allowed me to have the other half of the money to buy things that I wasn't necessarily needing to have, but would have been nice to have with the baby, and to prepare, and even things like making sure I had a little bit of extra money to order food out the first 3 months while you're, like, barely alive. Like, that all of that stuff, it was really great to have that sort of freedom in there, and to know, like, "Hey, I actually oversaved now, so now I have this extra chunk of money that I can do with what I want." So it was like, "Cool, I can buy more takeout, I can put some away in a vacation fund, I can" what I don't remember exactly how I spent it, but I remember knowing that, like, I had extra money there to do with as I please.
And what I love that you did with that money is it wasn't like, okay, and now I just got to like keep it and hoard it. It was, okay, and now I get to use this for other things. And I remember nesting being something that you didn't realize would be so important to you, but was. And you were like, wait, tell all the new moms, create a nesting sinking fund.
Yeah, I wanted to make our apartment really nice for the baby, and like wanted to have comfy, cozy things all around. And we were very lucky that our friends and family, like also gave us a lot of hand-me-downs and things like that. So I didn't have to spend that money on like the essentials at all, really. So I could just like take that money to make me and the space feel comfortable.
So lovely. Now I want to talk about your emergency fund because this was a continuing thing of like building that up and how you were using it. And then with the solo vacation, you used a little bit of the emergency fund to go on the solo vacation. Talk to me more about that.
Yeah, so thank God for the emergency fund. So originally I started, building it up, and I think since I've talked to you, it's only been full, maybe like once, because life happens and you're like, oh, well, here we go. I had to get an emergency root canal and pay $1,500 for it recently. And I was like, here we go. Like, I guess this is what it is. Because it happened. I was about to go on a cruise and it happened like the week of the cruise. So I had to go to like this specialist that was an hour away to get it done. And it wasn't in my insurance, but it was like the only place that was available to do this for me, like emergency, like quick, make it happen. And I was like, well, here we go, emergency fund, because I did not want to be on that cruise with a hurt tooth, or like have I don't know if they have dentists on the ship. I don't know. Or like have someone in the Bahamas like do this for me. And I was like, absolutely not. That's not happening. So I used my emergency fund to help with that. But as you're saying about the vacation that I went on, so postpartum is like very real. And I was feeling very depressed and not like myself at all. So my husband was very supportive of this. I said, I think I want to go. And it was like February. I said, I think I want to go someplace warm where there's sun, where I can just lay by a pool for a weekend. And he was like, cool, I fully support this. And I used some of my emergency fund to go on that solo, like postpartum vacation where Patrick handled the baby and the dog and the cat for a weekend. And I got to go lay by a pool in Orlando and just like enjoy. But I like took myself on solo dates and like toured a chocolate museum, and I got to feed alligators at one point because there was like a mini golf place that had alligators, and you could like just pay to go in and feed the alligators. And I did like embroidery and read books and laid in the sun and drank some wine, and it was great. It was very much needed for my mental health, and there's a whole other podcast that could be about the mom guilt that kind of comes from that. But for like that weekend, for moments in that weekend, I felt like my old self again, which was I had not felt. And I don't know, PSA to any other future moms out there, it took me a full 2 years to feel like myself again. And that seems to be a common amount of time from what I've heard. So just be aware if you're going to have a kid, your life is upended for 2 years,
Yeah.
especially your first one. I mean, I'm about to have a second, but especially your first one, because that completely changes your life. So that bit of my emergency fund was really helpful in making me like just see a glimpse of what I could get back to.
Yeah. Okay. So let's keep going there because I think it's so important to highlight the fact that your relationship with money will change and will ebb and flow throughout different seasons of life. And especially when you literally grow a whole ass human and birth it into this world, your life fucking changes and things happen. Like literally biologically, things are happening and like shit gets hard, even though it's beautiful, it gets hard. Right. And so I'd love for you to talk about what do you remember in that first year, year and a half of how your relationship with money changed?
Well, when you have a baby, it's really hard, that transition, because your life truly is completely changed forever. And I liked who I was in my life before. So all of a sudden, this life that I liked, now something completely new. And it took a long time for me to get used to that. So while I was getting used to that, my money mindset was way less focused. It was a lot more on comfort. It was spent of like what I was spending my money on was a lot of like comfort or just necessity even for it was like, I would cycle between like, can I buy this for myself because I know it would make me feel good, or should I save it for something the baby might need? And like that cycle and that guilt that comes along with it and that sort of curiosity was really hard to work with and kind of establish. One thing that super helped was when I came back from maternity leave, I worked in my position for about a month, and then about a month later, I got a higher paying position at the company. So that allowed me to take a deeper breath. And I was like, okay, I think I can manage, I can have the finances I have talked about and survive while being able to like treat myself occasionally. But even then, like I was not keeping track of money. That for like the first year, I mean, I was paying attention to like spending and stuff like that, but I wasn't like money dates. I was like, what? Like I'm just trying to survive right now. I don't even know. And then more recently, I would say about a year into being a mom, I started looking for more opportunity to make money and realizing like once we moved out here and we had the support of my parents to do childcare, now I had way more opportunity to find especially theater gigs that were giving me financial opportunities that I could grab and like run with. And so now I've been pretty consistently like once I started working out here since last July, I think, working on shows or teaching, like
That's
I
amazing.
yeah, I always have something coming up. Like so if it's not like I have a gig this summer. I just got done teaching at a university as an adjunct. I have a gig this summer. I have a gig in the fall already. Like stuff is happening. And I feel like the way my money mind shift changed, especially once we moved out here, is okay. Now I feel like my home life is like stable. Like I have that solid, like I know I can pay for the essentials. Yes, life has gotten more expensive, but also I then switched to another position that was again a little more higher paying. So that helped cover the expenses. And then now I'm looking for ways to increase my income even more so we have more discretionary spending. So it went from a mindset of like, I don't even know what I'm doing to like, okay, we're in a good place, but like mama wants to go on more vacations. So how can I make that happen?
Definitely. And what I want to highlight here too is that you didn't force yourself to be in the headspace of like, I need more discretionary income to go on more vacations when your main priority and focus was, I need to survive postpartum. Like, those are two very different seasons of life. And to think that your money goals are always going to be the same, to think that your money like routines are always going to be the same, right? Especially when throwing kids into the mix, that's just not real life. And so I want to point this out for you because when we were talking before actually starting the recording, you were like, yeah, like I still struggle with my money mindset. I'm like, as do all of us, right? I want to point out the through line here of money has never not been at least in the back burner of your brain, right? Like even during that time of survival, you were like, my money priority is survival, which means I'm not going to have money dates. Even if you didn't consciously make that decision, like that was a subconscious choice that you had made. Like you have more money muscles than I think you give yourself credit for, because then you swung back the other way too of, okay, and now I have new priorities. Let me think about increasing my income so I can have more discretionary income. those are words that come out of a financial CEO's mouth. I don't hear that coming out of the mouth of someone who doesn't care about their money. So I want to just say that out loud and give you more credit than I think you're giving yourself when it comes to your money mindset.
Well, thank you. And I will say that's still something that I struggle with a lot because as someone who was told, like you're never going to make money as an artist, you're never going to, and especially like all of the things that are happening like with capitalism and inflation and everything and most people aren't making the amount of money that they should be making just simply because of the expense of life getting bigger, like not because they're like deserve more for their hard work or whatever. It's like no, literally, like milk is $2 more expensive than it used to be. Like that kind of stuff is like people need, you know wages need to catch up. But it's something that I still feel like there are days when I'm like, man, I'm crap at this. Like I'm never going to make enough money. I'm never going to do, like I'm never going to make enough money to decide what I want or what I need or to get all of the vacations that I want or anything like that. But recently I had a breakthrough kind of where I was kind of in that spiral. And I said, we got a quote for redoing part of our, not redoing, but finishing part of our basement. And it was way more than I had anticipated. And my husband and I were both like, oh, you know what's great? We could get some outlets in there and that'd be fine. So we were like, we quickly pivoted to what was the priority. And then it was like, you know what? I would rather use that money for something like my husband's 40th birthday and taking him on a surprise trip than making sure that my office space is like 100% finished by the time the baby comes. It's like, do I have the bare minimum that I need to work down there? Yes. So that's all I need right now. But my husband's 40th birthday only comes once. So why am I worried about trying to make the basement like perfect before the baby gets here? It's just like pressure that I put on myself that no one else is putting on me. It's just pressure that I put on myself that like I failed if I don't do this. And it's like, no, you're just in a transition. You're working toward it, instead of making me feel bad because I can't hit all of my financial goals right away. I am also not a very patient person. So that is a that is something that I know about myself. And I know that if I have a goal and I can't reach it like immediately, so I have to kind of step back and be like, Shannon, you just found out you were pregnant like 2 months ago. You can't have known that you would have needed to save this amount of money to redo part of the basement so you could move your office down there so the baby can have your current office. Like, there would be no way. There'd be no way.
Absolutely no way. What I want to say about people, you and myself included, anyone who's feeling impatient about goals and hitting them, it's actually a byproduct or a manifestation, a symptom of believing that you can hit your goals. Because the impatience comes from, I know I can have this, and I'm mad I don't have it yet. And we think that the impatience is a bad thing. And that's like the mindset block we have to get through, when it's like, no, that's actually a really incredible like milestone that you've hit, because your brain actually believes you can have everything that you want. So you're like, okay, gotta make it happen. Let's do the tasks because I know I can make it real. So that's so huge that your brain space is like, yeah, and we can have the basement and we can do the 40th birthday party and we can do all of it. And I'm impatient to do it all right now, right? But like, we're gonna prioritize.
And that actually speaks to something I'm going through at work right now because, our annual reviews are coming up and there was another position at work that opened up and I was going to apply for it and I thought it was going to be a big jump financially. So I got like an initial interview but wasn't passed on to the second interview. So which was fine. But at work I'm very frustrated and there's all of my colleagues that I talk to are frustrated with the salaries that we have because I looked at my job at another company, like my same title, and it was 15K more than I make right now. I now, knowing I deserve to make more money, am very frustrated with my company for not giving me that money. When I saw that other job posting and seeing it was 15K more, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I should be making more money. This makes sense. So I basically was like, universe, I'm gonna start looking for other jobs because this is not acceptable in my opinion because I don't know the full understanding, like the full understanding of the financial status of the company, but I do know that we had one of the most profitable years we've ever had. And then as soon as I like told the universe, like, hey, I'm looking for more opportunity, more money, more jobs, I got recruited for another position, which would be something that sounds amazing to me. It's a little bit more than what I make now, but the interview's tomorrow. We'll see what happens. But if it works out, if it's the best move for our family right now, great. If not, I'll keep working where I am until I find the next thing that will help me get farther.
And the difference here too, that I'm even like, I'm remembering our first calls together, and I'm remembering the like, I'm just grateful to have this biweekly paycheck. This is more money than I used to make. Like that kind of gratitude isn't a bad thing. Of course, we love gratitude, but that energy of this is a good paycheck and I'm okay and I don't need more versus this now, which is I should be making 15K more. I'm going to figure out and do my research of what I deserve to be paid. I'm going to get people in my corner. I'm going to be looking for new opportunities. The confidence in your value and your worth monetarily is huge. Like this is such a stark difference.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think when I started in the corporate world instead of the creative world, I was just like happy to be here. And now
Yeah.
I'm here for 5 years. I'm like, hold on, there are people in positions that are making way more than me. That no. It's like, no, they should not be making more money than me. Like that is ridiculous. I do way more work than them, or like, like I would be better at their job than they would, that kind of thing. But a lot of it, like I said in my bio, a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm a young female.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh no, you have to wait and you have to serve your time. And I was like, cool, but boomers aren't retiring, so what do you want me to do?
And you've also made active jumps in the past few years, right? That have like gotten you to have more space and more wiggle room. And I think that like the space and the wiggle room, the more of that you can give yourself, one, the more your creativity can thrive. And two, just the more peace you can bring into your life. Like with all the crazy shit that's happening in the world right now and like dysregulated nervous systems, this is such a real thing. And so the more space you can give yourself, the better it's just going to be for your existence and your peace. And I think that's what so many of us are realizing that money can give us. Like, yes, it's about the vacations. Yes, it's about the stuff. Of course, the material things. We love material things. But at the end of the day, it's like, how much space can you give yourself? And like negotiating higher pay so you have more discretionary spending for the emergency root canal, but also for like, let's redo the basement.
Yes. You never know what is going to happen in your life. And so having that emergency fund, hmm, here's something about the emergency fund that I did not talk about. But so last summer, we were harassed by a sovereign citizen who had squatted on our property before we bought it. And once we bought it, he threatened my family and we had to get the police involved. The FBI was involved. It was a wild time for about 2.5 weeks. We thought that our house was going to be like some guy with a gun was going to come like try and kill my family. Luckily, that didn't happen. And we had to get a restraining order. It was a whole thing. He kept leaving notes on our door like, vacate in 24 hours. I'll be back in 24 hours. Like, leave the premises or whatever. Turns out we were fine. He was full of empty threats, thank God. But that is one of those things that, like, thank God I had an emergency fund to be able to buy outdoor cameras, to be able to buy a security system for my home, to be able to, make sure that I could eat out a lot because we ended up staying at my parents' for a couple of days to make sure that everybody would be safe, to buy things that we would put in our house to, protect ourselves if we need to. And we did what we needed to do. And thank God I had that emergency fund to be able to do that. And that's one of those things where having extra money like that gives you the space to be able to take control of your situation and feel more comfortable. And like the fact that like now we have, alarms on every window, we have cameras looking at every entrance. We have things in strategic places in our house. We have panic buttons. Like we subscribe to Simply Save, in our house if we need to. All of that was possible because of my emergency fund. And all of that allows me to sleep at night.
That's so big. I'm so glad you shared that because that's exactly what having cash in the bank is for.
Yeah, and I do have to say, eventually we got that money back because a friend of ours set up a GoFundMe. So we did get all of that money back, which was amazing because then I could replenish my emergency fund. But I had that, and
Definitely.
I didn't have to worry about like paying interest on it because I was putting it on a credit card and I wouldn't be able to pay it off because it was a big chunk of money right at the top. It would be
Mhm.
like $3,000, I think, to do all that over
Mhm.
like 3 days. And so
Wow.
yeah, it was a lot that we did. But I felt so good knowing I could like take care of my family and be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Oh, that's so lovely. I'm so glad you shared that. Are there any things that come to mind of whether it's mindset tools or like tactical strategies that you tend to fall back on when you're in your lows or when you are like coming back to your relationship with money?
one of the things that you told me about that has helped me is the like I'm coming back for you later list because I liked my impulse spending and like I my impulse spending used to be more of a problem. I still have those issues sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, but I just really need it. But there is a lot like more recently, especially with that quote for the basement and thinking like, you know, how am I going to be able to afford this? And then realizing, you know what? I don't need that right now. Like we can just make it work and then piecemeal it together. Like it's not something that needs to be done in order to function as a working person at home. So maybe instead I use that money to, take my husband on a surprise vacation and for his 40th. And I was just thinking about this the other day too. I saw some bookshelves that were on sale on Wayfair and I was like, "Oh, we need some new bookshelves for our room." But then I stopped myself from buying them immediately because I was like, I don't know, we have a new baby coming, like we don't like super need them right now, maybe be okay, but I still like 5 days later was like, I really want those bookshelves. So then I went back and bought them. And it was like now I don't feel guilty about it because I didn't impulse spend it. I went back and I was like, "You know what? Hold off. Come back in a few days. If you still want them that bad, then get them." Because I could afford them, but it's just like was it needed at the time?
Right. And it's like you've trained your brain to think about spending differently. So even though impulse spending still happens and you still have the urges, it manifests differently, right? Where like you are prioritizing more often than not. You have your I'm coming back for you, baby list. More often than not, something goes on that list. But like, it's also because we're human, you're never perfect. And because you've given yourself wiggle room, you can absorb some imperfection. Like that's what these systems and these money strategies are for. Like, I mean, of course, this is why I'm an anti-budget money coach, because when you're that strict and stringent, it's hard to absorb an imperfection. And then it just makes us feel like shit that we're not perfect. And for those of us who are perfectionists, like that just spirals us, right? So like it doesn't work. So I love that you are also allowing yourself to be like, and I still impulse purchase, but here's what I've been working through. I love that that's something you come back to. Okay, so any other tools or mindset things that you fall back on?
The buckets all the
You
time.
love the buckets. Yep.
'Cause I love sorting things in buckets and yeah, just like sinking funds and knowing that like, no, I put that in there for that purpose. So like I was planning on spending that. So like it's okay. I can spend that for that. I just started a Disney bucket for
Fun.
so I can like over the next couple of years, like just keep putting money in there. So when we take our kiddos to Disney, like I'm already thinking about that. So I can make sure that we can take them on a Disney vacation in like 3 years and that they're gonna have a blast.
Yeah.
So that's a more recent bucket that I added. Yeah, and now with the extra doll, my bucket limit for pet and vet fees has gone up now, turns out. St. Bernards are expensive. So
Are there any money wins that you want to highlight that we haven't talked about so far?
yes. When we moved out to Michigan, we got a first-time home buyer's loan that helps you make your down payment, right? So, because we were lucky enough to receive that, a lot of the money that I had been saving for the down payment, I got to use instead to furnish the house. And that was amazing. And like it was so nice to just be like, you know what? We want to make sure that we have a nice couch that can fold, that can become a bed in our living room. So we want to get a pull-out couch. And so like making sure that I could find a decent couch and that I could afford things like a new desk for my work from home space. And like I bought us a new bed. And like some things were thrifted, which I love anyway, just because, like reduce, reuse, recycle. But a lot of it was, you know what, we need this, and I don't need to spend hours on Facebook Marketplace looking for it. I just like this bed, and I'm going to buy it for us as like a hooray, we moved into a new house. Here we go.
Yeah.
And that was so lovely after moving because I'm very much my space needs to be nice. Not like expensive nice, but just like it needs to feel cozy. Like it was just little things like that that made me really happy
Hmm.
and made my home feel cozy.
Yeah, that's such an incredible money win. And like at the end of the day, what is our money for than to make ourselves feel like little joys and coziness? Okay, so to end us out here, is there anything you'd like to tell the people about your experience inside of coaching or any last closing thoughts that you have?
Yes. Not Starving Artist, i.e. Brooke, made me feel like I wasn't alone, made me feel like I could do it and that like my dreams were possible, my money management dreams were possible, and that I was not a failure for where I was financially, which is a huge barrier. There was, as you talked about at the beginning, like I had a lot of shame around like where I was financially because I felt like I should always be farther than where I
Mm.
was. And I still feel like that, which is why I'm like, I should be paid more. I'm like, no, I need more money. But coming into a safe space, knowing that there was like no judgment and support for in a world that really makes you feel like crap for not understanding finances when you've never been taught it was life changing. And especially those who don't want to feel restricted by a budget because I also don't like being told what to do. So if I create a budget for myself and I'm like, you get $20 in takeout money this week, I'm gonna be like, no, fuck you. I'm gonna do it because I want to. Like that I set like a boundary I set for myself. It's dumb. So like having that wiggle room, just like life isn't black and white, your budget should not be black and white. Your budget should be all shades of gray or whatever colors you want in your Excel spreadsheet of life. Yeah.
I love that, Shannon. That was so beautifully put.
Oh, one more thing. It's also not linear. Like I was just talking with you that before we started recording that like I struggle with money and mindset often. And it's something that there are days when it's awful and days when it's better. And there are months when it's awful and months when it's better. And it's not like it's like anything in life. There are gonna be ups and downs. So like give yourself grace.
So good. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you for everything.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.